I keyed a very fancy SUV that was parked in a tenant parking space for 3 weeks. Background. 6 years ago, for 2 years, I lived above a bar pizza parlor and hung out there regularly along with my neighbors. 4 apartments are above the restaurant, and 4 corresponding parking spaces are just across the small parking lot near one of the entrances. Now, these parking spots are in the parking lot for the pizza place, but there are signs, 4 separate, identical, large signs all in a row that are at least 2x3 that say in very large reflective lettering, tenant parking only. This didn't stop people from parking in them periodically, but we just stick our heads in the bar and they would ask the bar who parked in our spots and make them move for us. It was annoying, but it only happened like once a month. I was usually the one who had to deal with it because I was a chef at a hip sushi place at the time and got home after 10 p.m. most nights. Then one day this SUV appeared. It was huge, all white and chrome, and very tricked out with fancy rims, tinted windows, etc. I think it was a Suburban, but I couldn't be sure as all the lettering and decals had been removed, and I'm not much of a car person, especially not one for giant trucks. Honestly, it was tasteful, besides its massive size, and looked nice. As usual, I stopped in the bar and asked about it. No one fessed up to it being theirs. The bartender took my license plate and assured me that they wouldn't issue a ticket for parking my car in one of their spots. Parking is tight there. A week later, it was still there, and I was pretty positive the thing never moved. The FOH manager even let me borrow one of their employee parking pass things, so I for sure wouldn't get a ticket, which was super nice of them. At this point, I started asking my neighbors about it, as we were all chill people in our mid-late 20s and had started to get pizza and drinks together regularly. By the second week of it being there, I had spoken to every neighbor, even the 3 in the next building, just to be sure, and no one knew who it was. It didn't belong to any of the neighbors or any of their guests. At least another week went by, with this slowly turning from annoyance into simmering anger. Several times the parking lot was full, and I had to park on the street a block away and then move my car into the parking lot after midnight when it started to empty out. There were even a couple of tickets on it, as they wouldn't tow it. I was getting angry. One night, the only open parking spot was right next to the giant thing, and so I parked there. I noticed my neighbors and friends were drinking at the bar, so I didn't even go upstairs to my apartment. I just went in the bar to chill and blow off steam. Too many drinks and shots later, we're all collectively bitching about this stupid truck that hasn't moved in over 3 weeks. Even the employees are annoyed with it and agreeing with us, as they have to constantly keep track of our cars now to prevent tickets. Anyway, it gets to bar close, and I go to settle up and realize I don't have my wallet on me. I instantly assume it's sitting on the driver's seat of my car because it often fell out of the pants I was wearing. No reason to wear pants that I like to the kitchen. They just get stained with grease. I tell the bartender this. They let me just run and get it. They literally knew where I slept at the time. It's not like I could have run off. And I do that. I get to my car, open the door, and sure enough, the wallet is sitting right there. I grab it, stand up, close the door, and turn around, which on this fateful night meant my drunkenness was staring right at the SUV and my keys were right in my hand. With hardly a thought, I said, "F it," pressed one of my keys against the expensive aftermarket paint job of this high-end SUV, and walked back toward the restaurant, leaving a huge gouge all the way down the passenger side of the thing. It was obvious even in the light of the street lamp. The following day, it was gone as if by magic. Edit. To all the people asking why it wasn't towed, we tried, but the police wouldn't take our word for it. Only the property owners, which wasn't even anyone that worked at the pizza place. It was some giant corporation in another city, and they couldn't be bothered. Edit 2. This all jogged my memory, and I remembered something. The apartment next to the one I rented constantly had people coming and going from it, until one of the groups that showed up was the police, and the guy got arrested for dealing drugs, like meth, crack, or heroin, definitely not just pot. For like 6 months, tweakers would pound and scream at the outer doors for the guy, but that eventually stopped. Maybe he got out of jail and needed a place to park his car while he found a new haunt? I have no proof of this. Comments. Unlikely_cookie 9800-5 commented, "I'd bet that someone else who complained about it knew the owner." OP replied, I've spent too many hours pondering who might have owned it, and honestly, I can't be sure. One of the ladies in the other building was extremely rude, always yelling at us through the wall for having normal conversations during reasonable times of the day when we were hanging out. She was also extremely rude and short with us when we knocked on her door to inquire. Her neighbor, who had become part of our little party gang, said she's always taking in trashy men for a few months at a time. So maybe it was one of those men, though it was a really expensive vehicle. Staniel Blorsch commented, vehicles without license plates are an instant tow, so make sure your vehicle has its plates. I am absolutely not suggesting grabbing a screwdriver and removing plates. That would be illegal. OP replied, if I could turn back time, Narful _the_ Garthak commented, little disappointed. I read the title as you had keyed this thing for 3 weeks. LOL. Ah, well. OP replied, I realized that it could have been interpreted that way, and the typo, after I posted it. Well, that's why I went to college for philosophy and political science, not English, LOL. And that wraps up this story. Like and subscribe to Reddit Dirt for more stories.